one turnover in the last 3 games. What's been the biggest aspect to the decrease in turnovers lately?
We've put a focus on it, for sure. Both protecting the ball as runners when we have it and carrying it properly. And, so ultimately I think in a game, the players are responsible for the ball, and we put a big emphasis on it. So all credit goes to them when they've had it, and those guys taking care of it, including the quarterbacks.
How good of a recruiter is Chris, and is that something that you enjoy too? I mean, the recruiting aspect of the sport?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a huge part of what we do in college football. It's awesome to build relationships with kids all across this country, with their families. They're long-lasting relationships that you end up having with the kids, their families. Chris is as good as they come. The proof's in the pudding there, and he does an awesome job. He's not the only one on the staff. Our staff's pretty talented at attacking recruiting and finding the right fit for Michigan.
You've been a guy who's had some NFL gigs, so I guess what's your mindset in learning to love recruiting?
It's not about learning to love recruiting. I do love recruiting. I love football and everything that's kind of involved in football. And in college football, that's recruiting. In the NFL, it's not that; it's different. But I love all the aspects that have to do with football, just recruiting a kid who's at the early stages of his ceiling in football is pretty cool. And meeting and building relationships with families is really enjoyable.
How is the evaluation process from program to program, in the sense that how important is it to establish kind of a certain evaluation process that fits a particular program?
I think it's important. I'm not going to speak for anybody else's building, but we try and find the right fit for us. They fit for us and we fit for them. I think that's important. For them to have a great experience here. For them to have success both on the field and off the field. But I think every building's different, and you build your criteria and what you're looking for, and go get it.
Do you guys have multiple eyes? Like if you basically have one person look at a prospect, and then you have somebody else come in and kind of give.
There's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of layers of people that evaluate the player for us.
Yesterday, Shea was talking about the importance of being able to use his legs and run the ball. What is that, or how much of a focus has that been the last few weeks with him?
I don't put a lot of focus on it because our system is built to where his decisions, to take off and go, are built in throughout every game, and when he takes off for the right reasons, he's got space and he makes good yards for us with his legs. And as he needs to take off in the passing game, he's very capable of doing that. So I think every plan is built in a way that for the right reasons, when he takes off, is a good thing for our offense.
What does his ability to do that add to the offense? What does it allow you guys to do?
I think obviously the quarterback run game, that everybody has pieces, parts in their offense. It opens that up as opposed to anybody that doesn't care to do that, or maybe doesn't have a guy that is capable of hurting the defense, with his feet.
How does weather, lots of snow or lots of rain like a couple weeks ago, how does that impact what you guys do with your game plan, and maybe even the cold weather too, heading into a game?
I don't think cold weather factors, much into a game plan. The precipitation does. The rain certainly did a couple weeks ago. There's no doubt about that. Snow is less of a factor than rain typically is, in my opinion. So you just try and pay attention to the forecast. You hope that they're right as you're building your plan through the week. If they're wrong, you adjust as late as you have to adjust. and that's what we get paid to do.
How challenging is it to run a pro-style offense at the college level these days, especially with, you know, kind of the top players maybe only having 3 years at the college level before they consider going to the NFL?
Yeah, I
Just
don't
from an
know.
install standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, I think just, you know, whatever offense you're talking about, you know, the challenge in college is installing that offense to a kid that you have in the building for some period of 3 to 5 years, whatever system that is, you know. So whatever you want to call that system, that's the challenge of every building.
Guys, have anything else? Do you enjoy seeing someone like Michael Barrett on those fake kicks?
It's awesome. Yeah, he's a great kid. He's worn a lot of hats in our building, you know, so it's really neat to see him be an integral part of what we're doing in special teams, on defense. He spent time on offense early in his career, so he's a great kid. He represents us well.
Do you ever work with him?
I mean, he played, you know, in high school, and I don't think we spent much time that way. And last year, when I was around him more, he was, you know, I was working with the receivers, so not necessarily, but he has that ability, and we're well aware.
Where are Dylan and Joe right now in their progressions as they get through this season?
I think they're right where they're supposed to be. You know, they're better right now than they were at the start of the year. They're better right now mentally and physically than they were in the springtime, and that's about as good as I could possibly ask for. I think that's as good as we could hope for. They're going to continue to get better. Every time we practice, we try and get better. So I'm happy with where they're at.
I know game results kind of predicated, but Cade, is there a desire to get him playing time for the end of the year, if possible?
Yeah, we just, you know, those decisions on who plays and when and how much, we factor that in as a staff, and I'll leave that always, to Coach Harbaugh. But I'll just, Cade's progressing and doing well, so when he plays, if he plays, his ability to compete with everybody else in the building is just like everybody else. He's working hard and he's doing good.
How much does the cold affect a quarterback much? I mean, obviously they play in cold. It's not like the first time, but it's going to be 30 degrees, I think. How much does it?
I hope it's 30.
You think it could be colder?
Yeah, it's like 10 right now, whatever it is.
18. It's 18 right
Well,
now.
okay. My experience is like cold is cold, so it's got to get pretty darn cold to factor in my opinion. Some guys wear gloves, some guys don't. That's a topic of discussion for quarterbacks, but my experience, coaching guys and some playing experience. Once you get running around, you get pretty comfortable and you get used to the environment, and those frigid temperatures might affect at some point your ability to hold the ball. The feel of the ball is different as it gets colder, but we should be in great shape for this weekend.
So ball security is a little harder when it's cold? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not making more of that than maybe my statement sounds. Just as a quarterback, sometimes your feel of the ball is different. The ball feels different. I don't think your ball security changes a lot as it gets colder. But just the texture of the ball is a little. That's a little technical at this point, but the texture of the ball changes a little bit as it gets, as the weather's colder or warmer.
How much has Shea's ball handling improved over the course of this season, especially with executing the RPOs and handling the mesh point?
Mm-hmm. He's done a great job. It's been a focus, from the time that Coach Gaddis walked into the building, all off season, and that's a big part of our offense. the mesh with the backs, giving it, pulling it, throwing it. It's a huge part of the system, and he does a good job with it.
Last question, I think, Angeli. Chris said that everybody seemed oblivious to the rain. I mean, he was aware of it in Notre Dame game. Were you aware that it was raining?
Yeah, I guess I'd piggyback whatever he said relative to that, because I just thought our guys were excited for the game. I think they were excited for the environment, and I thought it showed. So I don't know that any of us cared what the weather was or how bad the rain was. We're excited for the game, and I think that showed too.
You just wanted about 17 on Saturday.
Only for my wife. Only for my wife. For me, whatever it is, it is. For our players, same thing. But I know my wife would appreciate that.
How's the foot feeling?
I'm still on IR. I am. I'm still on IR. It's if you guys have any plantar fasciitis tips
Yes.
for me, just bring them. Because we're attacking it on every level right now.
I totally do. There's a noodle, yeah. It's for tennis, and it's amazing.
Stand up.
Yeah, you roll your foot and use it for your arm, for your shoulders too. It's great. It's,
Great. We're gonna talk here in a
it's
second.
really good. It's
Gotta find some answers here.